Hi, Jason. Thanks for joining today.
Hey Joyce, how are you? On the contrary,
Good,
it's a
good.
pleasure.
Thank you. So let's start. Jason, AI is something everyone is talking about right now. But from what we see, many organizations are still figuring out how to approach it in a practical way. So I'd love to get your perspective based on what you're seeing in the market. So, what would you say is the biggest mistake companies make when they start their AR journey?
Hmm. That's a great question, and one I come across almost every week when speaking with leadership teams. I would say jumping into AI without a clear business problem to solve is one of the biggest mistakes organizations make. They get excited by the hype, they see what competitors are doing, and they rush to adopt AI. But they treat it as a technology project rather than a strategic initiative. And that distinction matters enormously, I would say. When AI is treated as a tech experience or experiment, it gets siloed within the IT department. There's no executive sponsorship, no alignment with business KPIs, and no clear definition of what success looks like. And organizations end up with proof of concepts that never make it production because nobody asked the fundamental question: what business outcomes are we trying to improve, right? Underestimating data readiness is another critical mistake, right? Models are only as good as the data behind them. Yet many organizations lack clean, governed, and accessible data foundations. I've seen companies invest heavily in sophisticated machine learning platforms, AI platforms, only to discover that their data is scattered across various disconnected systems full of duplicates, missing basic quality control. You cannot build a reliable AI solution on unreliable data. It's that simple, right? Another common pitfall I would say is mm, pursuing many use cases at once. There's a temptation to launch 10, 20 AI projects simultaneously, hoping that at least one will succeed, right? But what happens in practice is that resources get spread thin, right? None of the initiatives get the attention they deserve. The organization loses confidence in AI together. The smarter approach is to focus on one, two, couple of high impact, feasible pilots that demonstrate measurable value quickly, right? And then scale from there rather than go into 20 projects. Uh, Change management also is often neglected as well, right? And I think this is underestimated more than anything. Like AI transforms workflows, it changes how people make decisions, and in some cases, it redefines roles entirely. Like without buy-in from the people who will actually use these tools every day, even the most technically brilliant solutions will fail to scale. You need communication, training, and a culture that sees AI as an enabler rather than a threat. And then there's governance and ethics, ignoring them from day one and trying to bolt on compliance and risk controls later on creates technical debt and removes trust, right? Both internally and with customers. Organizations that embed responsible AI early on, I would say they would scale uh, substantially. Now, as a conclusion, the biggest mistake is confusing experimentation with execution. AI needs ownership, accountability, and a clear roadmap tied to real business outcomes. Without that, you're just spending money on technology for the sake of technology, I would say.
Yeah, that's actually something we see quite often as well. So, for companies that want to adopt AI but don't really know where to start, what are the first practical steps they should take to actually see value, not just experiment?
Mm. I would say this is where many organizations struggle, right? Because the gap between a successful pilot and a production-ready solution is much wider than people expect. So let me walk you through
Mhm.
perhaps what I've seen work in practice and what doesn't work. The first thing I always recommend is a business first assessment. Sit down with your business leaders, not just your data scientists, your technical team, and identify the pain points where AI can drive measurable return on investment. Not just impressive demos, not just cool visualizations, but actual impact on revenue, cost efficiency, customer experience, so on and so forth. If you can't articulate the business case in one sentence, the use case probably isn't ready. From there, invest in data foundation early, because if data is not ready, then AI would not work. This is the part nobody wants to hear, because it's not glamorous, right? It's absolutely essential. You need to ensure data quality, integration, governance are in place before you try to scale any model. That means cataloging, lineage, access control, clear understanding of where your data lives and who owns it. Companies that skip this step ends up rebuilding everything later on, and this is time consuming, and also it costs a lot. Then perhaps run focused proof of value pilots. I use the word value intentionally rather than concept, because the goal from day one should be proving business value, not just technical feasibility. But I would say pick 1 or 2 use cases, define success metrics upfront, things like accuracy targets, processing time reduction, cost saving, and iterate a quick turnaround in the solutions. Perhaps give yourself a fixed timeline, maybe 8 to 12 weeks, and be disciplined about measuring results against those metrics. It's also, I think, crucial to build across functional teams. AI is not something that can be delivered by a data scientist or data science team working in isolation. You need to combine domain experts who understand the business context, data engineers who can build reliable pipelines, and business stakeholders who will champion the solution internally. When these groups collaborate from the beginning, the solution you built is now practical, adaptable, and aligned with how the organization actually operates. You can also establish an AI operating model early on. This is key. This means defining roles, responsibilities, setting tool standards, agreeing on deployment pipelines, and putting in place a framework for model monitoring and retraining. Without this, every new AI project reinvents the wheel, and you never build the institutional muscle needed to scale. I would say as well, plan for production from day one. This is a mistake I see repeatedly. Teams build a beautiful prototype in a notebook environment and then realize it was never designed to run in a production setting. Design with scalability, monitoring, compliance, backed from the start, so your pilots don't stall at prototype stage. Think about model versioning, drift detection, and how you'll handle failures in the right way. And finally, I would say measure and communicate wins. This is often overlooked, but it's incredibly important for momentum to communicate and to expand and to measure the success of small wins. Early visible results build executive confidence and create the organizational appetite needed for broader adoption. Share the numbers, tell the stories, and make it easy for leadership to justify the next round of investment.
I like that, especially the focus on starting with the right foundations. So, as companies start working more with data and AI, how does compliance come into play across data, AI, and security initiatives?
Compliance, okay. I would say compliance is something that a lot of organizations view as a burden or a checkbox exercise. But in my experience, it's actually a foundational enabler, right? When done right, compliance ensures that your data, your AI workloads, your security programs align with legal, regulatory, and industry mandates from ground up. And that alignment is what gives you the confidence and the trust to innovate at speed. Let me perhaps break it down across 3 main pillars. From a data space, compliance ensures privacy, protection of data under frameworks like GDPR in Europe, the Personal Data Protection Law, PDPL in Saudi, ADGM and the IFC data protection laws in the UAE, and other regulations in different jurisdictions. These aren't just legal requirements. They're a signal to your customers, employees, partners that you take data stewardship seriously. And in a world where data breaches make headlines, as you can see daily, that trust is a competitive advantage. When it comes to AI, compliance drives responsible innovation. It ensures transparency in how models make decisions, fairness in the outcome they produce, and accountability when things go wrong. I think we're seeing these formalized through standards like the EU AI Act, OECD principle, even the UAE AI strategy, KSA, SADAYA AI ethics principle requirements, and different emerging frameworks across the region and the Middle East. Organizations that get ahead of these regulations rather than scrambling to catch up are the ones that can deploy AI with confidence and at scale. From a security point of view, compliance reinforces resilience through globally recognized best practices, such as within KSA, National Cybersecurity Authority, within the UAE, the UAE Information Assurance Standard, globally ISO 27001, in Europe, NIS2 or NIS2. Those provide a structured approach to identifying risks, implementing security controls, and continuously improving your security posture. They're not just about passing audits, checklists, right? They're about building a security culture that can adapt to an evolving threat landscape. What I believe strongly is embedding compliance into every solution lifecycle, rather than treating it as a final gate that delays delivery. We integrate compliance checkpoints throughout design, by design, by development, by deployment, and of course, operations. This approach helps clients stay ahead of evolving regulations while enabling innovation securely. It's not about slowing things down. It's about building things right from the start. And add one last point, compliance is increasingly becoming a cross-border conversation. As organizations operate across different jurisdictions, they need to unify compliance strategy that accounts for overlapping and sometimes conflicting regulatory requirements. That complexity is real, and having a clear framework to navigate it is essential. I would say this is what makes it important, compliance
Yeah,
across security, data, and AI.
sure thing. So that's a really important point, especially with how fast things are evolving. So,
Mm.
looking at the bigger picture, what are the most effective strategies for building cyber resilience in an AI-driven environment?
Okay. Um, So strategies for cyber resilience in an AI-powered
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
I think this is a problem that most very important, right? Because the threat landscape is evolving faster than most organizations can keep up with. AI is doubling day by day. Different solutions are coming to the market. It creates enormous opportunities for defenders, but it also gives attackers more sophisticated tools than ever before, right? So building cyber resilience in this environment requires a fundamentally different approach. I would start with need to implement security by design from the start. This isn't something you can look at later on. AI models, data pipelines, and the underlying infrastructure must all be protected end to end from the moment you start building them. This means secure coding practices, encrypted data in transit, at rest, proper access controls on trained data and training data, and adversarial testing on your models before they go live. If security isn't backed up with a proper architecture, you're building on a foundation that will eventually crack, right? Then you need to use AI defensively. And this is where things get really interesting. The same technology that powers generative AI threats and hacking and hackers use to actually attack organizations. AI can also analyze millions of events per second, identify patterns that no human analyst could spot, right? And trigger
yeah,
automated responses before a breach escalates. So organizations that harness AI on the defensive side gain a significant advantage in response time. Now, governance and accountability must be prioritized through all of this. it's not enough to deploy AI-powered security tools. You need to ensure that AI itself is being used responsibly. That means transparency in how automated decisions are made, regular audits of how your AI security systems are designed, and clear accountability. Now, investing in cyber awareness talent is another key strategic pillar, right? Um, Technology alone does not solve the problem. You need to have people who understand both the potential and the risks of AI in a security context. That means going to trainings, have ongoing trainings for the employees and for the stakeholders who are using those solutions. Upskilling is key. And your biggest vulnerability is your people. So depending on how you look at it, you have to invest with people.
Yeah, so thanks, Jason. This was really insightful. I think this gives a very clear picture that AI is not just about tools, but about having the right structure around data security and governance. Thank you so much and have a great day.
You too. All the best. Take care, Joyce.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.